Greg, I apologize for the error. Here's how we're going to do this. We're going to have a short question-answer period. It's a real simple system. You stand up, and if you wish to identify yourself, you may, and ask any of our moderators a question you may have. We have Mike Herron, Les Toso, John Callan, Gary Krapf, Ernie McNeely, and Greg Hubrick. So who's going to be first? Yes, sir.
Tom Walsh, Westchester. Les, has anyone ever looked at, there's still that bottleneck between Route 100 on the connector at Exton going north. Has anybody looked at possibly moving the turn lane by penetrating under the railroad tracks, the regular line and the Trenton cutoff, so that that turn lane is moved over, and what is presently the turn lane could be a through lane?
At this point, I'd have to check with our project managers. I don't believe. We might have looked at that, but it might involve as far as the underpass.
Mm-hmm.
The underpass has to be moved. As far as the overheads, the train tracks and everything, then that's probably a project that would have to go through either SEPTA or Amtrak, whatever railroad it is, to move those abutments back and widen it to get that lane in there. Normally when we get involved with a railroad, it involves a longer drawn out process where they have to actually go in and do the design of the abutments and get with us as far as what we want to do is, for the highway purposes. And a lot of times it all depends upon what the railroad company, which railroad company it is. Sometimes it's very hard to coordinate our projects with their wants or needs, and we are always engaged with conversations with them to do these projects, but we also look at what the priorities of the region are. What will this, how much money is it going to cost? That's the bottom line, because we only have a certain amount of money, and what are the priorities in this region and in Chester County. And if that project, and if we're looking at that estimate to be $12 or $15 million to do this, or maybe a little more, we have to see what the priorities are in Chester County as far as what projects are lined up ready to go and what the Chester County Planning Commission and the other stakeholders want to see in Chester County as far as transportation projects. So to give you a short answer, I'll check and I'll get back to you to see if anything's been done in that. I'm sure that we've probably looked at that before, but probably because of the funding situation, we've said it's not a high priority to do right now. It may be something in the future.
Thank you. And Les, you can reach Tom Walsh. You can just contact the chamber.
I'll give you my card.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, Jeff Brown from Westchester. I have a question for Les. In past meetings with PennDOT, we've heard of talk of trying to widen 202 from Westchester to the state line of Delaware to 6 lanes. In past meetings, it was somewhere on the table, but it wasn't really soon. Is there any talk at all of doing that in the future, making it 6 lanes?
We're looking at reevaluating the whole corridor, and as Ernie said, looking at intersection improvements, spot improvements, rather than widening to 6 lanes. I believe the last estimate to widen to 6 lanes would be anywhere from $450 to $500 million. This region, there's no way this region can absorb something as large as that project in conjunction with the other major corridors we have, where we're looking at a great deal of money also. So right now, I think the discussions are developing alternatives to the 6-lane section, as far as doing an intersection improvements at 926, at Route 1 and 202, widening in places like putting turn lanes in where needed, things like that. So that's where we're at in this process right now. And I know there was I believe the last meeting was back in November with the communities and the stakeholders. So that's where we're at right now.
I have another question for John then. You're not going to improve the traffic on 202. You've made your station, the railroad station, from Elwyn to Wawa. Any talk about taking it from Wawa all the way to Westchester, again, like we had years ago?
That's one major challenge, is the funding. As I mentioned, just going 3 miles was estimated between $80 and $100 million. Right now, as part of one of our stimulus projects I didn't mention, there's significant amounts of right-of-way stabilization happening on that extension. That if it was part of the overall project, it would probably boost up to about $125 million. The issues on the Restore and Service Westchester you really just can't flip a switch and turn the trains back on. There's a lot that needs to be done to get to the level of service you need to make it viable. The infrastructure basically needs to be totally replaced, from the track signals, the overhead, the power substations along the line between Westchester and Wawa. And there's other infrastructure as part of that. So if you can imagine the cost and limited funds that we have in terms of, and also compared to the projects of the region, public transportation projects of the region that are more critical and have funding, that would take away from that. So it's a balancing act. I believe Byron might be able to answer the long-term beyond Elwyn to Wawa.
Love to. Lloyd, would you let me?
Of course, I want to hear the answer too.
There is a funded planning study, that is a feasibility planning study. It looks at ridership potential, ridership catchment in this area for a potential theoretical reestablishment of the line back to the Borough. It's theoretical in the sense that it's absent any infrastructure costs, which are, of course, very much part of the equation. But before you get into looking at a true alternatives analysis, which looks at all the different types of things you need to rebuild, it's probably most important to figure out who would be using it, why, what are the types of trips that would be generated if that service was there, how much would it take from the type of service that currently exists for many people in this area who go further north and northeast to Exton or Malvern to pick up the R5 service, which is obviously a better service, well, a service, let's put it that way, but it's a service that's been improved over the years. There's been parking expansions at all those stations, and that's where the infrastructure investments have been made by both Amtrak and SEPTA over the last 25 years. So what we go through with our MPO, that's the Metropolitan Planning Organization in Philadelphia, DVRPC, is a modeling exercise to establish exactly what kind of ridership potential you have. And it's quite complex, and it's multi-stepped, and it's iterative, and we hope to have the results of that study probably 6 to 8 months from now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.